it's Hyaku Shiki 96, your favourite billionaire philanthropist, back from another yachting and private jet charter trip. I had a great time, thank you for asking. I promise one of these days you will actually laugh at that joke. Aside though, today what I want to be talking about is my top 10 games of 2025. So what I'm going to be including on this list is not games that came out in 2025, these are games that I played for the first time. I've completed over 50 games this year, so it's definitely been a difficult list to make. And also if you want to add your own list, please feel free to do in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you like these kind of videos, and without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 10, we have Yoshi's Crafted World. Now, Yoshi's Crafted World, I originally played the demo in 2018 and I found it to be quite an interesting title that I had definitely wanted to play in the future. And I decided to wait for the price to come down. Well, yeah, it didn't. But things aside, so I got it, and I have to say I'm really glad that I did. It is a great game, and I feel like the heart of Yoshi games is the creative flair and style that they have, and so the kind of more crafted aesthetic definitely made it more charming, and the gameplay was quite fun and solid. It kind of felt like a nice, cozy, relaxing kind of game to me, and that's really what made it kind of exciting. There are lots of different games with different intensities that you can play, but it's nice to have those kind of relaxing games, especially, you know, you've had a long day, you're tired, something like that. A game like Yoshi's Crafted World can be great for that. And I feel like it's just a good game in its own right as well. It's well designed, and I feel like there's a good amount of replayability in, which makes it a title that you can come back to in the future as well. Now, coming in at number 9, we have Mario Kart World. Now, Mario Kart World is the launch title for the Nintendo Switch 2, and there are a lot of things people have said about this title. But from my perspective, and I did make this somewhat clear in my Nintendo Switch 2 video, which I did a review of it having been out for 6 months, so if you'd like to check that out, I'll put a little card up below. Up top. There we go. That's better. We'll get it right eventually. Up top. And one of the things that I do want to say about the game that I feel like I didn't mention then is that the soundtrack is fantastic. The kind of more jazz, I don't want to say orchestral, I don't know quite the word for it, but the high production value of the soundtrack, and some of the way that they revisited original tracks from different other Mario Karts, fantastic. It's a great underrated part of that game particularly. And I feel like as well, the kind of visual design and the way that the kart's handled are much more attuned to me. My unpopular opinion is I didn't really like Mario Kart 8. Not to say it was a bad game, but it didn't suit my preferences, and Mario Kart World does. I love the addition of the Knockout Tour. I felt, again, the open world a little bit hollow, but it's better that it's there than it's not. It's interesting to see them try new things, even if not everything was perfect. I feel like, though, it is going to be a quintessential Mario Kart title, and it's going to be the one I'm going to be focusing on for years to come. Another thing I love, the costumes and the character variety and the karts. Yeah, it's just a great game, and it's a great time. It's a great one that I'd recommend. Would I buy a Nintendo Switch 2 for it? Well, it depends how big a Mario Kart fan you are, but I think that if you do buy a Nintendo Switch 2 and you get Mario Kart World, generally you won't be disappointed. And that's especially if you get it for either the bundle that I got it with, or just a generally lower price. That's what I'd say about Mario Kart World. A great entry in the series, I'm quite a big fan, and it fits my particular sort of wants. So, coming in at number 8, we have Oblivion Remastered. Now, Oblivion Remastered is a remake of one of my favourite games of all time. There's only 2 games that have ever filled me with a sense of wonder and awe, and that's Breath of the Wild and Oblivion. I remember when I came out of that sewer for the first time, I was mind blown thinking, I can go anywhere? And I suppose that's kind of a cliched thing. A lot of people have had similar experiences, but it's still kind of something that lingers and sticks with you. So all these years later, I still have a great reverence for Oblivion, and it's still something I even feel like I'm still happy to play the original version. So when it got shadow dropped, I was a little bit skeptical at first, having heard the rumours about whether it really needed it, but I did think it was a good thing for letting people access the game. However, when I saw what Virtuos did with the graphics, I definitely felt it was quite justified. It looks fantastic, and I feel like it stays true to the original vision of the graphic and art design of the original game, and you can't really ask for more there. It still preserves a lot of the awkward quirks of the game, which I feel like is a great part of its charm. At the time it was just straight up impressive, like the facial expressions and stuff, but now it's turned into a little bit of a quirk charm thing. But still, the storylines are fantastic. Some of the writings are hilarious, and the game plays quite well overall. I mean, we do have the fact that bandits can level up to have the highest equipment in the game. It's a little bit of a strange choice at the time, but I feel like it does maintain a sort of consistent level of challenge and openness in the game. By modern standards, it's not a perfect game, but in terms of a remake, it's exactly what it should be as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like I had a fantastic time playing the game, and it struck the right spot between feeling new and being nostalgic, which kind of justified it for me as somebody who still has a version of the original game. So yeah, if you're kind of on the fence about Oblivion Remastered, I definitely recommend it. So coming in at number 7, we have Astral Chain. Now this game was developed by Platinum Games for the Nintendo Switch, and I remember when it got revealed in 2019 during the E3 era. So I kind of watched those presentations and thought this looks quite interesting, quite unique. And it took me a long time to get round to it, but I'm glad I did, because honestly there's a gem of a game in here. It looks very complicated the way the kind of gameplay and action is, but it actually works quite well and it's quite intuitive. I feel like for me it kind of has this very over the top kind of like animation kind of style to it, which I feel like adds to the charm of the game. In terms of the world building, it kind of feels a little bit cliched, some of the plot points, but the mechanics and some of the other things do add a sense of differentiation to the game. It's not just a carbon copy, kind of its own take on certain things. But what I really did like is I thought that the characters were decent, and I thought the gameplay was superb and the world building was interesting. I feel like it's one of those games that I don't feel like I've heard it talked about enough in recent years, so I want to bring it back into the conversation and say it is a fantastic game, and if you're at least even in the slight bit interested, I'd definitely jump on it, because it's going to be one of those ones for me that's going to become one of those classics that people look back as being sort of a typification of the Nintendo Switch 1 era as to what kind of quality titles and levels of creativity we saw. Coming in at number 6, and this is again, we'll start to see really just how stacked this list is by the fact that I'm putting Dark Souls Remastered in number 6. You know, it's tough competition when a game like that goes there, but I've quite an interesting history with the game in general. So back in the 2010s, just after it came out, I actually bought the limited edition for around 20 or so pounds in game at the time, and I picked it up just because it looked cool, and I didn't like it. Yeah, I know. But it's quite I've definitely made quite the redemption arc at this point now, the fact that I've played it and I've put it sick there, so you can forgive me hopefully for that. But I just found the gameplay a bit frustrating back in the day. I found it difficult, and I didn't like the fact that I didn't know where I was supposed to go or what I was doing. At the end of last year, I saw somebody playing through the game and it actually started to appeal to me, so I thought I'll get the collection on the PlayStation 4 of the trilogy and have a go. And I am so glad that I did, because all of the things I thought were negative about the game are now positives to me. I love the gameplay, and I feel like it's rewarding gameplay that encourages you to be observant and careful, and also to mold out a particular playstyle for yourself. There's enough depth there that I can go back and have a completely different experience if I were to do a mage character or a thief character. I went for kind of a paladin build. It can stand on its own just for being fun. There are lots of things that I can say about this game. It's revered and held in good regard, but for me it had the right balance of difficulty, and most of all it was loads of fun. And of course, who doesn't like a little bit of a dark fantasy style from now and then as well? So yeah, it's definitely a great one, and I feel like it's one that I'm going to be going back to in the future. And it's in fact sparked my interest as a whole in the Soulsborne franchises. I mean, I've played since then Elden Ring Night Rain, Dark Souls 3, I'm playing Dark Souls 2 at the moment, and so it's really launched and introduced me to a sort of genre of games that I had previously written off, and what could be more impactful than that? Coming in at number 5, we have Hades 2. So last year I played Hades 1 for the first time, and I have to say that I was thoroughly impressed. I like roguelites, and so this hit well for me. So I had a lot of expectations going into the sequel, and I'd heard that it kind of felt different enough, but familiar enough as well, that you can consider it not to be just like an expansion to the game, but its own iteration of the game. And I have to say, yeah, absolutely. It's hitting all the right spots for me in terms of what I'm looking for out of a sequel to Hades. I do feel like subjectively I prefer some of the story and character portrayals in the first game, but again, that's a subjective thing. I think Melinoe and Hecate and other characters that are introduced in this game stand on their own right, and they are quite good. But again, it's just a matter of personal taste as to which story you prefer. But what I did say is in a bit more of a objective way is I feel like the gameplay I prefer on this one. They've added things to the formula, the Arcana cards, just like a bit of the things like the casts, and the way that they've sort of changed and refined the gameplay balance. It's definitely landed well for me. And I think it's a fantastic and stellar example of what a sequel should be, because there's a lot of pressure, especially when you have such a hit game as being more of an independent studio. How do you follow that up without just making it the same thing? And I think they did that, because I said I had high expectations and it's met them, and it's going to be one of those games that I just think it's going to become a classic in the genre. So as far as I'm concerned, Hades 2 is a solid sequel and a reminder of why sequels can be a good thing. You know, if developers have that creative passion and desire to go back to a title and want to improve and iterate, it can be a great experience, and it certainly has been for me. So coming in at number 4, and we're about to have other evidence of how stacked this list is, we've got Castelvania Symphony of the Night. So if you'd like to hear a bit more about how I ended up getting physically Castelvania Symphony of the Night, I'll include a comment here to my collecting video where I kind of discussed how I got the Dracula X Chronicles on PSP. For those of you who don't know, Symphony of the Night is an unlockable game within that remake of Rondo of Blood, so it makes it the cheapest way in the UK to own, physically anyway, because the PlayStation 1 version goes for over £600. I've seen it go for about £670. And as much as I'm a billionaire philanthropist and could easily buy all the copies out in the stock of the world, that'd be no fun. It's good to hunt for a good bargain and some good value, and so I feel like I'll just mention that bit there. What I will say is that when I started playing Symphony of the Night, I was blown away. I mean, the music's fantastic, the art's great, and it's kind of aged quite well as the quintessential 32-bit kind of like 2D Metroidvania game. Fantastic. I love the RPG mechanics and the amount of depth and openness the game has in letting you go where you want almost entirely, letting you discover items in completely different orders. You could have 2 playthroughs that feel completely different, and I like the multiple endings and the unlocking the second castle and everything as well. There's just so many good points to Symphony of the Night, and I'm glad that I finally got round to playing it. It took me a while because I'd heard about it, you know, a long time ago, when I was, you know, even in my teenage years. So we're talking like early YouTube days. I'd heard about it back then, got round to it now, and I have to say it's a classic, and it's going to definitely be one of my favourite titles for the original PlayStation. So yeah, it takes a lot. I'm quite a big PlayStation 1 fan, so it takes a lot to be able to jump that high up on the list for me. So if you haven't played it yet, definitely do. Another way that it's quite accessible is there's a mobile version that you can get on Android. I don't know if you can get it on iOS, but if you plugged in a controller, because nobody likes touch controls, if you plugged in a controller, that'd be a fantastic way to play. I'd literally recommend it that much to you guys. If you haven't and you're on the fence even slightly, jump into Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It is amazing, and I feel like if it released now, it would still be regarded just as good, and that's a big testament because how far game design, game development has come in the like 30 years since that game came out. The fact that I could still hear and say that is just evidence of how timeless a classic that it is. Okay, so now I want to mention a couple of honourable mentions. The first one that I want to talk about is Zone of the Enders Mars the Second Runner. So this is a 4K and PS4 remaster of a PlayStation 2 game, which is the second and final Zone of the Enders game. Now it was actually produced by Hideo Kojima, but it kind of feels a bit more in style like kind of a mech anime, but with this kind of like sort of arcadey frenetic gameplay, and that really what makes it stand out. There are lots of great mecha games. Some go for that more arcadey feel, some go for that more realistic feel, but I feel like the kind of style that gameplay that Zone of the Enders has, and just how frenetic and fast-paced it feels, is fun and exciting and very like sci-fi. It has a good cast of characters and story, and I feel like ultimately there's a lot of rewarding things that's there. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and I feel like it's one of those games that it's long enough and short enough that you could replay it several times and enjoy and sort of soak that in. So for me, it was a great title, and it did narrowly miss out on being on this list. Now, another game is Civilization 7. So Civilization 7, putting it highly up is going to be a little bit controversial, because I do know that some Civilization fans aren't quite a fan of Civ 7. I mean, they're never a fan of any of the games when they come out, but I feel like it just depends on how you interpret the design philosophy behind the Civilization games themselves. For me, one of the most refreshing things I find is they don't feel too iterative. So I've loved games like FIFA in the past, and what kind of made me go off it and get bored of it was the fact that every game feels very similar with minor alterations. With Civilization, it feels like a fresh and interesting take of the formula. They're not afraid to try things out and to just kind of go back to square one in some areas, refine things, try out new ideas, and it makes it an exciting experience. And I feel like it paid off with Civ 7. I waited a while to play it on the Nintendo Switch 2 once some of the updates had come out, because I did want to use the mouse control. And yes, the actual shortcuts and controls aren't very well optimized for the console, which is why if you have a Switch 2, the mouse controls are the definitive way to play that game. I still do think that ultimately it is a great game. I like the additions of the eras and switching civilizations and the kind of less expansionist focused gameplay. It's more balanced for people who want to have lower amounts of cities and settlements. It's just a cool way to mix up the formula, because I really liked Civ 6, and it doesn't feel like it's replacing Civ 6. It feels like a different game that's close to that game, and that's what I really appreciate about the franchise. It doesn't stop me going back to the old games and feeling like they're outdated. It makes me feel happy that I'm buying all these different ones up so I can experience all the different things and iterations of that core Civilization formula. The last one on the honourable mentions is Gunstar Heroes. Now, this game originally launched by Treasure on the Mega Drive. If you've noticed and you've had a look in my game tour video, which I'll put up there, I don't own a Mega Drive. I don't own this game physically, and I feel like it's kind of a shame. Sometimes I do wish I could collect for Mega Drive, but space and money are an issue. You do have to make your collecting choices. What you don't have to make is the choice of the games that you play. Now, one of the things that I love about Nintendo Switch are the classics emulation games, because it allows me to gain access to some games that just would otherwise be very difficult to gain access to, and that I'm not willing to put the money down to do. And Gunstar Heroes is one that costs quite a bit of money. Being able to play that and use an authentic sort of replica controller from Nintendo, it made the experience quite a lot of fun. I played quite a few different sort of shoot-em-ups, run and guns this year, and I have to say that Gunstar Heroes was very impressionable and left me with a very positive feeling about the genre in general. I feel like for me, it is an absolute legendary game. I love the art style, music's great, but most of all, the movement's fantastic. It feels kind of like one of those games where when you take damage, it's your fault and it's not the game's fault. And I feel like that's, for me, the best balance in old school games, is when they don't artificially make it difficult, but they design the game really well and rewardingly so that you get good as you understand the mechanics. And for me, that's what Gunstar Heroes is. If you are on the fence about that game, I definitely suggest giving it a try. It is a great way to access it through emulation. But yeah, no, for me, that narrowly missed out being on the list. And again, that's another testament to how good this list is in the first place, that games like that get on the honourable mentions. But anyway, let's get back to the main list. So, coming in, and now we're at the top three. With number 3, we've got Armored Core for the PlayStation 1. Now, Armored Core is definitely an absolutely classic title for mecha fans, but I kind of recently decided I wanted to get into the franchise. It kind of be one of those ones that I was always a bit confused about, because the games are rare, difficult to source, and there's lots of debate between the different fans as to which area you should pop in, whether it's the PlayStation 1 or the PlayStation 2 or maybe on the PlayStation 3. Some people even just say go straight for the new game, and I can't tell you which is the right place to drop in, but I decided I was most interested in doing the PlayStation 1, so I just thought I'll start there. Picked up the game. It's one of the most expensive games in the collection, so I really sort of like had high hopes and expectations for that game anyway, and what I found is that it met my expectations and exceeded them. It's fantastic. I mean, I love the kind of like 90s style to it and the music, the dystopian feel to it as well, with the underground cities and everything. Very, very cool, and it's aged fantastically in my opinion, besides the controls. If you are comfortable with kind of like PlayStation 1, early PlayStation 2 era controls, you won't have a problem, but for some people who are not accustomed to those things, that's definitely a negative point there. But for me, not too much of an issue. I don't mind tank controls. I think it's just a case of, you know, you stick with it long enough, you get used to it kind of thing. But what I just loved is the level of customization, the kind of brutal feeling of this having expenses that you have to pay, things like that, like great world building, good story, and for me it's definitely a classic, and because of that I'm excited to delve into the rest of the franchise, and it's gonna hurt my wallet doing that, but after what Armored Core 1 showed me, I can't wait to see and experience more. Now we're in at number 2, so we've got Alan Wake 2. So Alan Wake is one of the only Xbox 360 games I actually played back in the day, and it generally was a fantastic game, at least for its time. I replayed it this year and I felt like it aged a little bit, but it was still fun. So I jumped into Alan Wake 2, having heard that it was really good, but I kind of stayed blind on it, and I'm so glad I did, because Alan Wake 2 completely overshadows Alan Wake 1 in my opinion. I found that the kind of style of the game, it transcends just being a video game, because it leans into the music, the audio, and also the kind of film bits that well. It's got such a unique style that makes it stand out. And for me, that's what the medium's all about, seeing things done in a new way. And that makes it exciting and memorable, besides the great, and I mean great, well-written story. I love the addition of Saga Anderson as a character, and having two kind of alternate character arcs which you can control the pace you go through each of them. But beyond just that, the actual core gameplay itself stands up. I preferred the iteration of the survival horror formula in Alan Wake 2 even more than Resident Evil 2 remake. So that's a big claim there, and I really do feel like that is something that I stand by. It is absolutely an astounding game from every single perspective and direction, and it's going to be a classic, and I really hope they can match that in Alan Wake 3, because they've left a really high bar to meet. I can't say enough praises about Alan Wake 2. It's a classic in the genre, and it's going to stand as one of my favourite survival horror games, and even horror games in general. With that out of the way, you're wondering now what number 1 is. So I won't introduce it straight away, but I will say this, I'll give you a little hint, that you definitely won't skip 10 seconds to miss. Ha ha ha. Yeah, again, hopefully you'll laugh one day at these jokes. But it released on the Nintendo Switch 2 as a launch title. It's a port, and it comes with the only physical version of the DLC. In fact, it was the only third-party game at launch that came on a full physical cartridge. Yes, that's Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I honestly can't say enough good things about Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I'd never played a CD Projekt Red game before, so I didn't really know quite what to expect. I'd seen the series Edgerunners, and for me, the world building in Edgerunners I thought was so fascinating. I'm quite partial to Cyberpunk. I mean, I love franchises like Blade Runner and think they're fantastic. So the kind of world building that was presented to me made me interested and want to go into the game, and I am so glad. I am so glad that I did. I can't sing the praises of this game enough. It is an absolute genuine masterpiece and masterclass. I think the game has what it takes to get into my top 10 games. I've played a lot of games, and it definitely does. I don't know where it lands yet. I think I'm going to have to take some time to think about it away from recency bias. It is a game that I feel like everybody who's a fan of role-playing games in general should experience. It is just that strong of an offering. The soundtrack, the art design, voice acting is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, two of my standouts, Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba in the Phantom Liberty DLC. I like this game so much. I played about 165 plus hours back to back, and that's big for me. I tend to, as you can see on this list, gravitate to games that kind of tend to be more moderate to shorter in length, and so when I get really sucked into a game and put loads of time into it, it's just a testament to how addicted I was. I had a lot of time off on summer, and I was really playing it all the time. I mean that I was playing it all the time. I did two complete different playthroughs, one with male and female V, and one I kind of did the Sandovistan katana, pistol kind of build. Another one I did a hacking build with smart weapons, and the game felt completely different in the way that I approached the combat encounters. Even the backgrounds that you can come into the game with and the role-playing mechanics have a lot of depth to them, beside the world building. One of the things I will say is, one of the problems I've had with open world design for a long time, and I know that it's kind of been limited by technology, this isn't a critique of some developers, but a lot of open worlds feel empty. But you know what got it right? Cyberpunk. It feels like a world that's actually lived in and alive, and that's such a great achievement. I feel like this game is going to be a masterclass example of not just how to recover from having a bad image because it launched in a poor state, but also it's going to be an example of just how to get the basics right so well. I don't think I've ever seen a game that's hit every single element perfectly, and it feels like it is that to me. It's going to be a game that I am going to be coming back to over and over and over again, and I will be there on day one for Cyberpunk 2. CD Projekt Red have made a fan out of me. That's how good this game is. I'm completely ready for more, and I feel like there's still so much of the game I've yet to experience, even after having put so many hours in. It's just a masterpiece. There's no other words for it. And I'm not just saying that because it's the top of the list. I'm saying that because really, like, it's profoundly outstanding piece of media in general. I don't know what else, honestly, I could say about it that could do it justice, but I will just say that for me, it's left a positive and strong impression, and it reminds me of why I spend so much time playing video games and having it as one of my main hobbies that I've had ever since I was about 4 or 5 years old. It really is absolutely outstanding. That was my top 10 games I played in 2025. What are your top 10 games? Please list them below, and of course, if you have anything that you'd like to say about some of my discussion points, please mention them in the comments. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content from Hyaku Shiki 96, your favourite billionaire philanthropist. However, I have an important meeting to go to that I have to go now, otherwise I won't make my private jet flight in time. Yes, and the company, I'll give you a hint, is worth over £1 trillion. So, I'll catch you on the next one after I've attended that meeting.